Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Sellerboard Show. My name is Jenny, and my today's guest is Taliesen from Hahnbeck. Hahnbeck is an M&A firm, and we are going to talk about what aggregators are looking for, whether it's worth using a broker, how has the market changed in 2021 and 2022, what exactly are aggregators looking for, and a lot of other very interesting topics. So if you like this content, I hope you press like and the subscribe button, and don't forget to check out Sellerboard. So Sellerboard is a profit analytics tool for Amazon sellers with a bunch of additional tools such as the follow-up email campaigns, inventory management, reimbursement for lost and damaged stock, and other aggregators, PPC optimizer, hijacker alerts, and a lot of other very cool features such as the eBay and Shopify connectors and some very good stuff. All this starting at $15 a month, and I hope you enjoy this content and have a wonderful day. Hey Taliesen, how are you doing? Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jenny. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thank you for joining. So to start off, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Taliesen from Hahnbeck. Hahnbeck is the leading M&A firm in the e-commerce space. We're based in London. We've got offices here in London and in Vancouver to cover our US clients and Canadian clients. And obviously, all the buyers in this space are across both North America and Europe. So, and in Asia, we've got one person in Australia now as well. So yeah, we're a global firm, and we specialize in e-commerce. Which means now lately most of our clients are Amazon clients. Most of them use Sellerboard, and the ones who don't, we encourage them to use Sellerboard.
Thanks.
So yeah, that's how we know about you. Everyone knows about Sellerboard. And so yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. So why don't we speak more about Hahnbeck? What do you guys do? What is it about? How are you related to e-commerce?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we're a sell-side M&A firm. So we bring clients to market when they're ready to sell their businesses. I'm sure you've heard like there's a lot of acquisition activity happening in this space. And if you've got a really great Amazon business, you can sell it. And so the question is, do you want to just sell it on your own? There's some automated kind of services out there now. Do you want to just do that? And you can sell it. But for the ones who really want to get the best result and have someone negotiating the absolute best deal for them, protecting them in due diligence, making sure the deal closes, it can make a huge difference to the price. So that's why they use us, and that's what we do.
So as I understand, you're the intermediate between the sellers and aggregators, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So how does it work?
So we first of all we meet the client and understand the business. We have to really understand all the ins and outs of the business to really. We have to capture all of that so that we can explain it in the best way to buyers. It's also becoming much more important for the acquirer. If the target company fits their strategic profile now, they're not buying quite as willy-nilly as they were. So therefore, it's really important for us to understand all of the different advantages in the business. So we go through the financials. We've got chartered accountants on our team. We help to prepare everything and get the business ready for sale, and basically optimize everything to get the best result. Then we produce marketing materials that highlight all of not only the really great things about the business, but it's like really important to identify the things that are not being done perfectly, or basically opportunities for the acquirer. So we put all of that together in a pack. The other important thing that we do is, although the Amazon aggregators are really important buyers in this space, there's other buyers. So for each business, the strategic buyers will be quite different. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do. We identify them. There'll be PE firms and there'll be strategics in each space, and we'll identify them and we'll bring them into the process.
All right. So when, from your experience, does it really hit sellers that they should be selling their business? When is the perfect time to sell, and how do you come to it? I mean, how do you understand that I should wait, or this is the perfect time to let it go?
Good question. Yeah, good question. Because the business is their baby quite often, right? They don't want to let it go. But by the same token, like a real baby, sometimes the business can be pretty exhausting. But the point is, the timing matters. Like, it's a good question. ideally, a lot of people think that the best time to sell is when you've just really had an amazing year. Things are looking a little bit more difficult, and the coming year is going to be just super stressful and probably not performing quite as well. That's actually not the ideal time to sell, because the buyer will be able to identify a lot of those same factors. And if they see that the coming year is not going to be as positive as the last one was, if it's a really great business, they'll still be interested, but not at the same high price. It's better when you're still on a growth trajectory and you can see growth continuing into the future for a while. That's the ideal time to sell, because you have to understand as well, particularly for larger businesses, due diligence can take a little while. A lot of the aggregator firms are advertising 30 days of due diligence. We have had 2 deals actually close in less than 30 days, but it's becoming less and less common. More often, they're taking longer and longer. So during that whole due diligence period, they're watching. And so the business has to keep growing. So the timing does matter.
So I'm not a seller. I don't have any seller experience, to be honest, neither any of us at Sellerboard. So how do you forecast that the next year isn't going to be as good as this one? I mean, what does it depend on? What do you take into consideration when you're looking at the graphics?
Professional sellers themselves have a pretty good sense of that kind of thing, but there's a number of things that play into it. For example, this year, it's right now we're recording this in March 22, and it's actually really difficult for most sellers in the market at the moment to have year-on-year comps of this month better than the same month last year, because just the nature of e-commerce in the West and what happened last year with lockdowns and so on, everyone got a bit of a boost. So it's more difficult to have year-on-year comps looking positive at the moment. But because that's across the whole market, buyers understand that. So it's not, if you're experiencing that, it's not unique to you. But there are other factors that might be unique to your business where, new product lines that you expect are going to be really positive. For example, especially if you've got really a lot of confidence in it, something's really doing well, and just a new variant or a new color or something, or just some version of a product that you have a lot of confidence in is going to do really well. Don't wait until you've rinsed out that whole benefit and then sell. It's better if you've got a few things in the pipeline coming that you're confident in, they're going to be really good. That's one element of it. For example, launching, say if you have a business based in the US and you're selling, say, only on Amazon.com, for example, you're thinking of expanding to the UK and Europe, it makes sense to do that. If you have to weigh that up regarding the time and effort that's involved in that process, and the size of the opportunity. If you're willing to hold your business for say another year or a couple of years, it's worth doing that now, benefiting from that growth. You understand that once you've already achieved that growth yourself, you need another growth lever after that for the buyer. So if you're considering selling now and you haven't expanded yet into Europe, it's another factor that you could weigh into your decision about, this is a growth lever for the buyer and we can really sell that to them and they can see that that's, so there's a number of factors like that that can weigh into your timing.
All right, sounds good. So as far as I understood, you don't sell your business once you reached your peak. This is not the perfect time to sell. Am I correct?
Pretty much. If you really think it's the true peak and it's all downhill from here, that's a terrible time to sell.
All right. So one more thing, how has the Amazon FBA and MA market changed over the course of 2021 throughout the past year? And is it still a good time to sell this year considering what's happening currently in the world? I mean, the first is the pandemic, then a lot of other surprises coming on. And so is it still a good time to sell or should people wait?
It is still a good time to sell, generally speaking, 2022. If you've got a really great business, now is still a good time to sell. I think, as I said, we're recording like right now is March, and we've just had, obviously there's a European war going on. We've had stock market jitters before that. Interest rates have just started turning up. So like, if we're talking about specifically this month, everyone's a little bit nervous, but hopefully things will improve in Europe. Certainly the stock market will become more comfortable with the new interest rate environment. And within a few months, in terms of the capital markets impact, you could argue that maybe in a couple of months' time, it might be slightly superior to now. But just broadly speaking, 2022 is still, if you've got a really good Amazon business, it is still a good time to sell. Things how has the market changed since 2021? There's still a lot of aggregators. In fact, there's more aggregators than
Much more.
ever. Yeah. They are becoming more selective. The largest ones have taken large investments from PE firms who are now significantly impacting their strategies. And even the medium-sized aggregators who are, very active in the space, it's becoming much more important for them to find businesses that fit their strategy. They're becoming more sophisticated. So they won't just be looking to buy any business in the category, any business in any category that they're interested in just for the sake of the profit.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to find businesses that fit with their other acquisitions, or businesses that they can use as a platform for something else, businesses that will improve something, that kind of thing. So they're being a little more cautious, a little more selective, but when they find those ones, they bid even higher than before. It becomes a priority. And for the other ones that don't perfectly fit, they're bidding a little lower. It's kind of a little bit less competitive for them.
I've been in touch with a few aggregators, so as far as I know, some people can sell their business straight to aggregators without an intermediate. What's the importance of you guys? Why is it? What's the difference between selling straight away to aggregators or selling through a third party? I mean, how does it make a change, and what's the advantage in it?
Sure. There's a few things, I guess. The first one is price. Ultimately, the aggregators, and most of them are good actors. They're good. No, I don't mean actors. I mean, they're not bad actors. They're good people generally. But it's better for them to buy the business without the business being represented by us. They get the deal cheaper. They don't have to pay as much. And there's two parts even to that. Like, you can run a competitive process and orchestrate that really well, get all of the aggregators involved, make them understand everything, get the strategic buyers involved in everything. And you get the best offers, bid them up against each other to the point where you can understand what truly is the best price the market will pay for this business. We provide advice regarding not only obviously the deal term, the deal size, but the deal terms and who the buyer is, because not every buyer can close a deal. You have to weigh that up. But that's only stage one. So then all of that, once you get through all of that, that's your first offer. That offer is non-binding. So the real offer is what comes after that, after due diligence.
Right.
So having someone on your side, not just your lawyer, but someone who understands the commercial terms of the deal and understands what the market is, and also knows everyone in this space and can protect, where there's a reputational risk to the buyer if they do something inappropriate. That's just a huge help during due diligence. So it's like the first stage is really part of it, is very important to get the best deal and to choose the right buyer. And then the second stage is really important as well, to make sure the deal closes at the right price.
All right. So what do aggregators look for during these times? I mean, if I have a business that I'm ready to sell, should I be making a certain amount of a turnover per year? That would be important for them. I mean, is there like a minimum? Yeah. What exactly do they look for? Does it depend on the products and categories and so on?
Sure, absolutely. And these basic criteria are still the same as they were kind of last year, in that they all have minimum thresholds that they're looking for.
All right.
They usually set minimums around your profit. So your EBITDA or your seller's discretionary earnings. Some of them, they vary as well. So some of them you need $1 million in net profit per year. Right. Some of them set that at 700, some of them set it at 500, and some of them set it at 250. But generally speaking, you need at least $250,000 to $300,000 in net profit per year. The other thing that's important that some people don't realize is that the profit margin is like really critical to them. So if you're making, say, 300, like we just talked about, $300,000 in net profit, that's actually, and the total turnover of your business is 1.2 million.
All right.
That's actually much more attractive to them compared to if you're making 300,000 and your total turnover is 1.8 million. That's less attractive, even though you've got a bigger business. People think of, grow the business as much as possible. It's actually the margins that have a bigger impact on the attractiveness, particularly in the Amazon space. The acquirers are very sensitive to maintaining the average margins across their portfolio.
Do you guys only work with aggregators, or are there other buyers in the market that you're in touch with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we're in touch with all of the aggregators, but PE firms, family offices, are increasingly interested in this space. And then, as I mentioned, for each deal, particularly for larger businesses, there'll be strategic buyers involved. So say, the business, that depends on what your products that you're selling. So for example, if you're selling stationery, then other companies who are selling stationery will often be interested. So we identify all of those and bring the business to them. If you're selling camping equipment, other camping companies will be interested, things like that.
All right, cool. One more question. So, other than it being much safer and as a seller, for example, me getting the highest bid to sell my business, if I use a firm like you guys, what are other benefits that are there?
We provide a fair bit of advice and support throughout the process, which might not sound like much until you've done it, but there's a lot, particularly during due diligence, there's a lot of nervous times when you don't know what the buyer is thinking, what the other side is thinking, why they're being silent for now, and having a lot of context to understand from someone who deals with them day in and day out to explain it to you is actually super helpful. During due diligence, there's always bumps in the road. Not everything goes smoothly as well. And it's often helpful to have like a third party like us to be the intermediary, to tell them the bad news or to tell them the good news, or just to intermediate between you. It's much more comfortable. But it's really the advisory side, both before and after. We coach our clients on how to handle the calls with the buyers, what to say, how to present things in the best way, everything you can think of. It's just helpful to have someone who's done it before on your side.
And is this expensive? I mean, how much do you guys charge? Is there a percentage out of the deal?
Yeah, we
I mean, how convenient would it be for a seller in case they have, for example, other offers on the table and so on? Is it a big sum? It's not a secret, of course.
No, it's not. No, we publish it. And actually, what you've just said is like a really good way to think about it. So our fee is 4%, but like you mentioned, sometimes they may already have offers on the table. And, we've had situations where clients have negotiated with different buyers and got the best offer they could, then come to us, and we've negotiated a deal that's 25% higher than the best that they could get. We had one client who he started with us from the start. He didn't go to market first. He just came to us right from the start. And the deal that we got him was literally double what he thought he was going to get. And he's going to be actually joining our team as he's just a really great guy. But we got him a really great deal, and he's going to come on board.
That's cool. So basically you get 4% out of the check that's in the end.
4%.
It's not such a big number. I mean, it's I think it's worth it instead of going through all the hustle by yourself and not knowing what you're getting yourself into. It's pretty interesting. What do you think? What's in store for this year in the e-commerce market? I mean, do you have any forecasts? Is there something that you expect? Is there something that sellers should be worried about or consider or work on? I mean, how can we predict this year that has already started?
It's tough, isn't it?
It is.
It's hard to predict the future. We're hoping that freight prices will start to come down. No one knows exactly when. Obviously, we now have, because of the war, there's now concerns about the price of oil, which may cause ongoing problems with the freight. But
the petrol as well in Europe, because we're in Germany. And the prices on the petrol in the European Union are going crazy up. I mean, if you have a car, it turns out pretty expensive.
I know. Unfortunately, all of that feeds into the cost of like sea freight and everything. But some of the bottlenecks that were involved in the supply chain are improving. It seems like also some of the hassles from 2021 with like Amazon's restock limits and things, we're expecting them to be less of a problem this year. 2021, to be honest, was quite a difficult year in e-commerce. It was hard to match, especially like the second half of 2021 was actually like pretty difficult. And we're expecting 2022 to be, generally speaking, hopefully better, a much better year for e-commerce sellers. The M&A market, like we talked about, is that everyone's being a little bit cautious just right now because of what's happened in the capital markets with interest rates changing and things. but still, we expect this to be a really good year. Within a couple of months, things will be much smoother in the capital markets. Yeah, God willing, some good news in the various wars that are going on, and things will calm down. So we're definitely optimistic about it.
I'm positive as well. One more thing, how long does the process last? I mean, from the initial stage to the last one. What's the usual time frame? What are the steps? I mean, how many steps are there? From the decision to sell to the contract being signed, and then how long does it last on average? And what are the steps, of course?
Sure. So yeah, the first step is for us to understand our client's business. We can do that really fast. We can do that within a week. Just having a lot of calls, understanding the financials and things. Completely transparently, it's actually much easier if the client already uses sellerboard and they have everything in order. We can log in, and it actually is like super helpful. If they don't, or if their financials are not in order, it can take a little longer. And it's important to get all that in order first. You can't kind of go to the market until everything's right. So that can extend the process out to sometimes up to a month. So to get everything ready and looking great. From there, we go to market. We approach all the strategic buyers that we've identified, the PE firms, and obviously all the Amazon aggregators. Occasionally we don't, but almost always we set a time frame, a deadline to the process, which is typically around 3 weeks.
All right.
Very large clients. We've got 2 clients above $100 million at the moment. That's a different kind of kettle of fish. But for typical Amazon businesses, we set the process usually lasts 3 weeks. That's when you get first offers. After the 3 weeks, there'll be a short list of buyers. And typically, even though the deadline has passed, just from a practical perspective, what usually happens is it goes on a few days after. There's second and third offers. People don't want to be left out. And so they're like, even though the deadline has passed, there's another second and third round bidding process that lasts a few days to another week. At that point, we're obviously advising our client on the different deals and negotiating with each of the different buyers. That has to be done really tactfully as well. If anyone's thinking of doing it on their own, that it's completely fine to do it. But you can't shop around anyone's deal. You can't disclose what anyone else is offering to each other. We've got to be really tactful about it. Because what we're really asking them to do is go outside their normal frame of what they would like to offer. Mm-hmm. And that makes them a bit vulnerable. If they think anyone's going to find out what they're offering, so you've got to manage that process.
It's quite shorter than I expected, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, it can be quite fast. Then then you sign exclusivity with the buyer, and you've chosen one. Then at that point, the power shifts to the buyer rather than to the seller. So, this next process the next part is called due diligence. It's really important. But I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you as well. I'm listening.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, so the next part is due diligence. Now, that's the part where the aggregator firms often say on their websites, this will only take 30 days. We'll buy your business within 30 days. For very straightforward businesses with very few SKUs, where it's an asset deal, occasionally that can be as fast as 30 days. But that's getting less and less common. More and more common, we're seeing 60, 90 days. And then if anything comes up, like something unexpected on either side, it can delay it even further than that. But typically, we would say closing that due diligence period is usually between 60 and 90 days for more complex businesses.
That's not so long.
It's not that bad, yeah. Bearing in mind that most of our clients tend to be larger as well. We deal with mainly clients in the kind of $10 million turnover range. Yeah.
That's a big number. How fast can you get a good bid if you're making a turnover of, let's say, more than 10 million? I think you can sell pretty fast, no?
Yeah, you can. I mean, speaking of getting a good bid, most of your listeners will have had bids already. The aggregators are reaching out speculatively, so they're having conversations with them and they're making offers very quickly. So it's not just about getting the bid; it's actually making sure the bid is legitimate and closing the deal. that what is very commonly done is that they will give a really attractive offer first and intend to get into the details of the deal later. Now, getting into the details of the deal very often means knocking the price down. And bearing in mind, you don't even have to be like a sinister, manipulative person to do that. It's just that they're in a competitive race with each other and they feel like all of their other competitors are doing that. And so it's become quite standard to reach out with a high offer, get the person into due diligence, and then really look at the numbers then. And when the numbers inevitably turn out to be not quite as optimistic as the owner thought, you knock the price down at that point. And that's very, very common nowadays. So yeah, that's why you need someone.
What did you mean by a legitimate deal? Are there deals that are not legitimate? I mean, what's the difference? Is there any scam going around?
Not scams, but there's buyers that can close the deal and buyers who can't. So we've seen a few different things. We've seen buyers, aggregators say to people, I'm sorry, this is during due diligence. I'm sorry, we told you that we had funding, but we actually don't have the funding. We were using your deal to go to our investors to see if we could get the funding, and they said no. So we've seen that. We've seen one of the aggregators.
So what happens at this point? Basically, the seller has to find an aggregator, am I correct?
That's when they came to us. We found that had happened to her, and she came to us afterwards. You've got to go back to the start, But when a deal falls over in due diligence, it's depending on the type of the business and the circumstances, it can be fine, but you lose a bit of the power. The wind has come out of the sails of the sale process, so it's not quite as easy the second time around. Everyone's a little bit more skeptical, like, why did the deal fall over? It's not great. We've seen aggregators say, I'm sorry, we're only just disclosing this to you now, but we were working on several deals at the same time and we only have capacity to do one. So we're going to pull out now.
They have to drop the others, I get it.
Yeah, but so that's inappropriate. We've also seen from someone who wasn't a client of ours, but just told us afterwards, they said literally after 4 weeks of due diligence, they said, look, I'm sorry. This is one of the biggest aggregators. They said, look, I'm sorry. Our colleagues in our European office, I know that they offered you this much, but they just made a mistake. Your business hasn't changed. It's still going great. But they gave you an offer that was too high. So we're going to drop it. It was literally half what they offered them. So, that's called retrading on a deal. And that's totally not professional to do that.
And what happens at this point? Do most sellers give in and take the half, or do they keep stubborn and try to find other aggregators?
I mean, that was outrageous.
Because it's very manipulative. I mean, it's a good try to drop the price in half, and if the person really needs the money, they might probably agree.
That's rare, but that literally happened. But yeah, the more common situation is where they find something in due diligence, or many things in due diligence, that's legitimately are showing the profit is lower than they thought. But the manipulative part of that is that they should have found that out beforehand, and they got the seller to sign the deal first,
all right,
before really even looking properly. And so, yeah, that's not quite the same as retrading, but it's similar. And sellers have to be aware of, that and protect themselves. On the other hand, we've seen buyers be really patient, and we've seen some where legitimately, like seriously negative things have happened to the business, and they've just been patient in one case for more than a year, waiting for the business to sort it all out. We've seen cases where the buyer has stuck by their word and closed the deal at the same price despite something negative happening in the business. Like they're not all the same. So yeah, it's important to kind of understand that.
That was pretty interesting. Yeah, I got it. I learned a lot of new things. I didn't even know I didn't even know that there are firms that help buyers and aggregators, because I just started communicating with aggregators recently. Those who are using sellerboard, for example. For new users, I usually do a demo and represent the software and explain how it works. And I was told that it's buyers with aggregators working closely without a third party or M&A firm. So that sounds pretty interesting. So why don't you tell us where can our listeners and our audience, in case they would be interested, where they can find you? I'll add the link below the video. And yeah, let us know where we can find you.
Very much. Thanks. Yeah, just hahnbeck.com. So Hahnbeck is spelled HAHNBECK.com. Hahnbeck.com.
All right.
All our contact details are there. info@hahnbeck.com.
I'll add the link in the description below. And do you have Facebook, Instagram?
Awesome.
I think you should be having some social media
Yeah,
pages, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, no Instagram. But maybe we should think about that.
You should.
That's what we do.
A lot of people nowadays are just sitting 24/7 on Instagram. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope our users will find it useful. And in case they have any questions, they can probably reach out to you through the contact information on your website, right? All right. Thank you for joining me, and that was amazing. Is there anything that you'd like to mention before we end the meeting?
No, that was awesome. Yeah, thanks very much.
All right, thank you for being here. I'm used to being your host. Thank you for being here. Thank you for finding the time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content, I hope you press the like button and subscribe to our channel. And see you next time. Bye-bye.